So Halo Reach is one of our favorite Halo games, mostly just because it's one of those games that really captures the essence of Christmas in Halo, which is one of the biggest themes of all of the Halo games, clearly. So we were playing through Winter Contingency as normally, where we had to do the part where you deliver Santa's sleigh to Santa Claus, and then boom, all of a sudden, we accidentally ran over Santa Claus. Yeah, this was quite the predicament and something we didn't expect to happen that night, where we would manage to run over Santa Claus with his own sleigh, though much like the Tim Allen movie, we do know the rules and what that meant, and the only way we could possibly save Christmas would be if we took over the role of Santa Claus and decided to deliver all of the presents, because for whatever reason that's how that works. So the real question here is, can we save Christmas in Halo Reach? Let's take a look. So starting things off, we had to get the group together if we were going to save Christmas once and for all and figure out how to maybe pilot this thing. For this run, we had me, Rocket, Elijah, who really likes that security helmet. Then we had Luke, or Rocket Luke, who we quickly blamed Santa's death on as soon as possible. We thought bringing along Tepikfet would be a great idea because he knew a lot about those ODST glyphs, and he obviously would know a lot about saving Christmas as well, so we thought he could maybe help. And then we brought a newcomer on as well, the other Elijah, or we just call him Peter because there can only be one Elijah. He kind of served as our hacker man just in case we ever would need to hack. Not that we're playing anything outside of just vanilla Halo, of course. So early on when we're on Winter Contingency, we did notice a few things about trying to pilot this sleigh, flown by the reindeer or MOAs. First of all, this thing is extremely fast and fragile as well. There was multiple times where we may have crashed and injured ourselves severely in the process, but this would be something we would have to overcome if we were going to save Christmas and stop the Covenant at the same time. So shortly after we realized we would be the ones in charge of saving Christmas, we knew we would have to push forward the indoor section of Winter Contingency and clear the Covenant out of there and activate the comms relay to make sure we could get our GPS downloaded so we could figure out where we had to go deliver Christmas presents to. So we went ahead and just flew Santa's sleigh right through the indoor section of this base. It got a little chaotic at times with the random elites. And once we were able to clear it past the elites, we were able to go ahead and download Santa's Winter Contingency plan for if, something tragic happened, like him getting run over by some Spartans. So our next stop was Sword Base, where we had to go do some stuff. We decided we would take turns who was in charge of piloting and essentially have shifts of who would pilot the sleigh. And on this level, it was up to me. And very quickly on, I learned that this thing is way faster than I had expected, and the turning radius might be a little bit wider, and it made for a few hilarious moments early on and a few unexpected deaths when I thought I could just go at light speed. Little did I know though, is that throughout this level, it's one of the most challenging levels just because the amount of enemies that have very large weapons that can one-shot a sleigh out of the sky. I don't know why Bungie didn't consider that challenge ramp up for the players who would be playing through this level with a sleigh. It's like they almost thought that this wasn't something anyone would ever do. Nonetheless, we had to fly around and hit the relay section over by this pond area, and we had so much trouble here, mostly because I had to try to drop off the people who were on the sleigh with me so they could go and hit the switches while there were revenants shooting up at me. So if I ended up staying in place for too long, we would die pretty tragically. And what was really annoying was how many times we would hit the buttons and all die in the process of just picking someone up because we stayed in place for too long. Nonetheless, after enough trial and error, we did manage to hit the relays here, and we pushed up to the next area. And this one, if we were careful enough not to fling everyone off of a cliff by jumping off too early when I tried to do a turn, was a little bit easier to clear, though the final area pushing back up into Oni Sword Base was so hilariously stupid. In this part, there's like 4 Wraiths, 2 Revenants, some Banshees, some Phantoms, all of them that want to just blow up Santa's sleigh. And what's also interesting is the pilot of the sleigh can die, but if the pilot dies, more often than not, the cart loses its Christmas power or color and can't be driven anymore. So that means an automatic revert to last checkpoint whenever this happens. So the main strategy here would be I would fly up, drop off Peter, he would hit the switch, I would fly around, sometimes hit some random teleporter that would teleport me back, and just stay alive as long as I could and hope that I could fly into the lower area. We died a lot trying to get up to where the hunters were, as the hunters can just one-shot the cart and that's it. And then we had to check checkpoint way back we had to go to. So we eventually realized if we go into the sword base area and fly back to our spawn area, we could then trigger a checkpoint, and then we could fly in and try to fight the hunters. I tried to stay in a corner while they fought the hunters and just watched and hoped that I didn't randomly get shot. And eventually we cleared this section. Cramming the reindeer and the sleigh inside the elevator was a little bit of a challenge, though we pulled it off. Getting it out of the elevator was even more challenging, though I eventually found a way to slide it out of there. And then pushing up through the inside section of sword base was a little hilarious, a little daunting because I was afraid of hitting the ceiling, though we were able to bypass a large section of this level. And when we got to the outdoor section, kind of all hell broke loose. There's a ton of enemies shooting at us constantly, and if we were going to save Christmas, we were going to have to make sure we cleared those enemies out of the way first. So some of us jumped out, and I just flew around trying to avoid the banshees and the phantoms and just hope for the general best. Eventually, we were able to clear this section and move on to Nightfall as well. Nightfall, on the other hand, had Peter flying, and for him, it was mostly a walk in the park. He just kind of cruised forward, just jammed and wedged his way through this one building you have to go through, and then we flew straight towards the end of the level and where the wall is that you typically can fly over. He was pretty confident he'd be able to fly right over the wall, no problem, though for whatever reason it didn't work and we all were severely injured. So we realized that the weight of all of us and the presents in the cart at the same time was weighing the sleigh down, so we all had to jump out except for Peter, and he was able to fly it right over the wall, just barely make it over, and then he may have died in the process, though the door just opened up. So we spent all that time trying to open it, and we could have just, went through it normally. From there, it was just a flight straight to the end of the level, and we're moving on to the next level, but this time we realized that we had to come up with a strategy if we truly were going to save Christmas. Now, the Covenant, they were really kind of making some aggressive moves on Reach. We didn't want them to glass the planet. That wouldn't be very Christmas-like. So we figured if we went to the Covenant Spire and tried to maybe deliver some presents, maybe all would be forgiven, we can all get along, Christmas would be saved, we can continue delivering presents to everyone else. So while the opening area of this level is a bit aggressive, we went with Dasher, Dancer, Prancer, Vixen, Comet, Cupid, Donner, and Blitzen, and of course Rudolph, and pushed through the Covenant lines to try to deliver a war-ending Christmas present. The battle was tough. We fought very hard. There were enemies everywhere trying to shoot us out of the sky. That was kind of intense. We had to take out a ton of enemies to try to deliver their present, but hey, it might have been worth it. Nonetheless, when we got to the part where we were entering the spire, it was a quick flight up to the spire section where we jumped out and started clearing the enemies there so we would have room to drop off the present. Though since the box of their present was so large, we realized we forgot the handcart, so we left on a falcon to go and get the handcart to come back, and then we would unload the sleigh for them. And just as we were leaving, tragedy broke. For whatever reason, the Covenant decided they didn't want our present, and they ended up blowing up their own spire along with the sleigh and all of the reindeer that we had left there because we were trying to find a handcart to unload the sleigh. We honestly thought that this was the face of defeat, because how on earth would we ever be able to save Christmas if we don't even have a sleigh and the reindeer to take us there? Christmas would be ruined. Now, Tepig informed us that he had heard rumors of a secret reindeer training base where rookie reindeer recruits would learn how to fly. They wouldn't be nearly as skilled as the other reindeer we had, and it would be a risky move, but just maybe we could take these greenhorns and save Christmas by some sort of crazy long shot. Now, our best bet for getting through this would be to get advice from the Council of Santa Clauses that have their annual meeting in outer space around this time. So we headed to the training facility and we picked out the new squadron of reindeer that could possibly save Christmas. So upon arriving at the facility, we saw the new squad. They weren't the original Santa's reindeer, but they would do, or at least we hoped. We had Dasher, Dinker, Princer, and Vincent, Dimitri, Lupus, Connor, and Dixon, and Randolph, the red-nosed reindeer Moa thing. So we didn't know much to do, but we knew we had to make it to the assembly of Santa Clauses in outer space. So we teamed up with George and we prepared for takeoff, and sure enough, we at least made it off the ground and into the atmosphere. Though it seemed like the Covenant was ready to attack the assembly of the Santa Clauses in space, so we had to fend off that attack, which was a little bit of a chaotic process, but nonetheless, it actually went surprisingly well. We were kind of impressed with the fact that we were able to pull off some very interesting space maneuvers, even even though we were mostly using just cadet reindeer. But nonetheless, we made our way inside of the ship. We learned a bit about Christmas strategies, and we got some advice from how to conquer the Covenant, maybe, or something like that. We didn't really flesh that part of the story out. And then we calmly returned back to Reach to finish the fight there and save Christmas once and for all. Going into Exodus, other than a door we couldn't seem to figure out how to get the sleigh through, we mostly were able to fly around in the right area and get inside the firefight section where the brutes all come in. Then we put the reindeer in the elevator, took it up to the next level. We met with some ODSTs and promptly abandoned them. We flew too far ahead in the level and had to backtrack to hit some loading sequences and then go ahead into the level. At the end section, we flew too quickly past the area. The level wouldn't end even though we hit all the buttons we needed to. We had to kind of search around for whatever loading sequence we ended up missing, but we did hit the loading sequence and we almost were done with Christmas. We just had a few more places we would have to go in New Alexandria to save Christmas once and for all. And even though it looked like Reach was going to fall and the planet would be lost, at least we would have a good Christmas, and maybe we did have what it takes to be Santa Claus after all. So we jumped to New Alexandria and we flew building to building, making sure we were delivering the presents in each building in the way we were supposed to. We even stopped and helped some Marines along the way as their Christmas gifts, because all they wanted was our help for Christmas, which was kind of cool. And even though we were tired and weary from going inside of all these buildings, flying past enemies and fighting our way through much, we knew that our mission was accomplished and we were really proud of ourselves. But then Carter informed us that there was one more present that we needed to deliver that had an extreme priority. Matter of fact, this specific present was located at the North Pole and we would have to pick it up from Mrs. Claus herself and then deliver it to one of her ex-lovers or something. Nonetheless, this present had top priority and we had to make sure we pulled this one off perfectly. So the team headed in for one final Christmas present delivery. We just had to make our way back to Santa's workshop. The flying part wasn't necessarily the easiest. Last time we were in this area, it was very chaotic, and this time it was even more chaotic. We kind of just flew through using a lot of the strategies that we had picked up from the previous levels and avoided dying the best that we could. Once we finally pushed our way inside of the sword base and found the little secret elevator we're supposed to go down and squeeze through the doors that honestly we don't understand how that managed to fit. We pushed our way down to the lower area underneath the sword base and found Santa's workshop, holding off the area as long as we could while also using the Santa sleigh to the best of our ability to keep us safe. Once we got inside, we got the Christmas present that we were supposed to deliver to some dude named Keys or something like that, but it was of the utmost importance and it was the quintessential most important present we ever had. We knew that this would make or break whether or not we single-handedly saved Christmas after maybe possibly ruining it. So we went on to the next level and continued through, flying past things as quickly as possible. We did run into one small issue where a scarab fell out of the sky and landed on us, but other than that, things were going pretty smoothly. We cut in and out of traffic, avoided stuff, flew over stuff, flew through some narrow rooms and some narrow hallways, had to mess around with some loading areas because we flew through a window to skip some hunters. We pushed to the final section and were able to fly up and utilize the Mac gun early on, which made this part a little bit easier. Finally, the commander would come in and he would need us to deliver him the package. We dropped down and we met the commander, handing off the package to him with his Christmas present finally delivered. Christmas could be saved as long as he could actually leave the planet enough to enjoy his Christmas present, and apparently some elite dude commandeered the Mac gun, which wasn't too nice of him, making it much harder. But the main thing that would not allow the Pelican and the rest of the Pillar of Autumn to leave into orbit was this giant Covenant carrier that was about to blast the entire area. We knew it would be a risky move, but we knew that we had to do whatever it took to save Christmas, even if that meant us flying full speed into the Covenant carrier and just hoping for the best outcome. And we did, and we saved Christmas. Ultimately, at the end of the day, we proved that we knew we could save Christmas if we were the ones to possibly ruin it in the first place, and that's all that really mattered. And even if it meant costing our own lives in Halo to save the holiday for a planet that was doomed anyways, we knew we did the right thing. And as it turned out, we actually ended up surviving. And in the following year, we would be back once again to fly Santa's sleigh and become Santa Claus again and deliver presents to everyone who needed Christmas presents on a planet that was now mostly destroyed. But still, it's a happy ending, right? I think. Hey, if you liked the video, make sure you guys hit the like button and be sure to subscribe. Also, huge shout out to Peter or other Elijah for making this mod. He he literally put so much work into creating the sleigh and all of the MOAs, and then he had to mod them in and inject them into every single level. So we had to like mod a bunch of levels, and then he also went as far as recreated winter contingency with snow, which we were able to use just for that little finale piece that really tied it all together. So that was really awesome, and we're going to work with him more in the future. We're trying to encourage him to really kick up his own channel so we can show off how he does this stuff, because it's really cool. Anyways, be sure to subscribe. Follow us on Twitter at Rocket Elijah for me, or at Rocket Sloth Luke if you want to follow Luke. Otherwise, that's it for today. We'll see you all next time with a brand new video.